Hello, my name is Brenda Cárdenas, and I'm joining you as a participant in the Letras Latinas Oral History Project, a collaboration between Letras Latinas of the University of Notre Dame's Institute for Latino Studies and the Poets House in New York. Before I reflect on my own interview, I would encourage you to spend time with as much of the project as possible. All of the interviews contain powerful insights into the work of contemporary Latine or Latinx authors, and I found especially enlightening those that provide glimpses into the rich history of early Chicanx and Latinx poetry, the community of poets who converged around cultural work, international political involvement, and the many literary magazines they created when few publishing venues existed for our work. I also find indispensable discussions regarding how poets write about atrocities they observe from afar, such as questions of authority, self-reflexivity, and positionality, on writing in multiple genres, on literary citizenship, such as mentoring, writing literary criticism, editing, and publishing, on what makes a literary work Latine if it doesn't contain readily identifiable cultural signifiers, and on writing's relationship with trauma and spirituality. My own interview was conducted in 2006, about 6 months after my second chapbook had been published by Momotombo Press. Fellow writer Maria Melendez, who had edited the chapbook, interviewed me. We spoke about the translingual nature of much of my poetry, my background as a performance poet, and how I foreground sound, notions of borders colliding, hybridity, and liminality in my work, literary influences, convergences of the personal and political, and collaboration with visual artists and musicians. One of the poems I spoke about, that I'd written in Spanish titled Poema para los Tinto Enteros, has since been published as a song by Hal Leonard Music after composer Daniel Afonso set it to a choral score. This past year it was performed by the National Concert Choir at Carnegie Hall. When doing the Letras Latinas interview, I could have never imagined this would come to pass. I've also taken some deep dives into ekphrastic poetry written in conversation with visual art in recent years. So I'm going to read one such poem from my 2023 book, Trace. It's also translingual and demonstrates the language play that we speak of in the interview. This poem is titled Placa, Roll Call, which is also the title of the piece of graffiti art by Chas Bojorquez that the poem responds to. And it begins with an epigraph by the artist himself, who said, "If the city was a body, graffiti would tell us where it hurts." And this block would shout, "Nos diste un chingazo, cabrón. Mira esta cara rota, these baton cracked ribs, this black and blue street dizzy con gente. Blades, Kiki, Larry, Snow, Enrique, Connie, Elton King, David Kelly, Jeff Raton, Chaz. Los de aquí, los de abajo. This roll call won't be silenced, not by Glock, not by chokehold. This our temple of runes, our tomb, its glyphic curve and flow, calligraphic code writ acrylic. This our relic, our scroll unrolled in catacombs, our flecks of subtext still buzzing. Después de que vayamos con la pelona, que lucha loco. Ven, baila con nosotros to the aerosols, maraca y hiss, al punk en español's furious sweat. Hang your head out the window y dale un grito tan lleno de duende that it cracks the pavement. Summons our dead to dinner. Turn the tonal kaleidoscope, then pause. Catch your breath so you don't miss the illegible moment where all the mystery lives. There, decipher that. At one point in my interview, I talk about becoming less interested in writing narrative poems and more in lyric experimentation. In the 18 years since, this has remained true, yet I've also continued to write narrative poems, as sometimes we need to tell a story in the concise, fragmentary form of a poem. And so here's an example of one such poem forthcoming in Prairie Schooner magazine. It's titled Lineage, Para la bisabuela, or the great-grandmother I never knew. Our lineage, 8 burros fencing a single aguacate tree in the middle of an open field. This is where you kneel, hide behind the blinking eyes, soft bellies of a breathing shield, tails smacking at buzz-stung air. Torches burn barns to the ground behind you, daughters grasping both your hands, youngest slung across your breast like La Adelita's bandolera, all because you packed a lunch, tied a sprig of mint in your son's hair. They said he was feeding the wrong side, so they bound his hands and marched him blindfolded 3 days to the next village, where a noose wreathed his neck, feet planted like stones on a crate. What if you hadn't burst in, breathless and begging, just before they kicked it out from under him? If you hadn't dragged his sun-beaten body to priests who soaked rags and rang drops of water on clay lips? If he hadn't boarded the train that hauled him north with the woman who housed seeds that would sprout ears perked for each other's screaming when she pushed all of us into this singed world with no ring of stubborn creatures to shield us. Back when I did the interview, I didn't expect my work to turn as much toward humor as some of it has, but then I hit middle age and I simply have to laugh at its absurdities. This is titled Middle Age Dreams. So that old lover, the one I didn't remember when I ran into him at a book fair 10 years after we ate strawberries off each other's skin in a steamy tent erected on the sandy bank of a river? The one who approached me all smiles as if we had eaten those strawberries yesterday, while I cast blank eyes because I thought he might be the long-lost friend I had dropped acid with in a house where fish swam around fork and spoon, dipped in and out of a coffee cup because, you know, all aquariums are tables set for breakfast. Not that one, but the one who left me driveling in puddles while he drifted across country to join a Buddhist monastery. Yes, that old lover shows up at 4 a.m. I've already married him twice, the second wedding only months before, and now he's leaving me again. I'm standing in a puddle that floods the valley, know the truck route, screw all this pastoral shit and admit it, you live on a truck route, about to marry a man I've never seen in my life, nor whose fruit I'd ever want to lick. When I try to shake out the cobwebs and dry my feet on fresh sheets, I tell husband about it, but all he can say is, "Where was I? You mean I wasn't even present on the truck route?" And the dog purr growls, which means she must go out. In the interview, Maria mentions her attraction to my poems concerned with nature and ecology. I've continued to write eco-poems and will close with a new one published in the journal SWIMM Everyday. It's titled Mercy. Uncorset my fat suit and bury me in a chorus of strawberries, a forest haunted by cicada suits left clinging to toadstools and stones. Let bear paws mix me in a handful of honey, should bees still swarm this noxious earth. Give wolves license to muddle me like a sugary cocktail or effusive stew. No box. I beg you to strip me of this red nose, yellow-collared clown suit, and kayak me out to the aquamarine cemetery where fall cell phones and lighters, water shoes and dimes, earrings and locked chests full of secrets. Let my spent shell sup like a suckerfish on this dumpster and clean its sullied floor. Have mercy on the home we have poisoned, blue body we have boiled like the soup we are destined to become. Have mercy and add a bit of mint before you wrap me in clean linen if you must. Do not fasten my shroud, but let it flutter in the wind's whistle that carries me to the velvet ear of a dog. Muchísimas gracias.